All right, so today we're going to talk about something really cool. We're diving into how this old, forgotten comic book hero was, well, resurrected. And not just to give him a shiny new costume, but to literally dissect the entire idea of a superhero, using philosophy as the scalpel. Okay, so to really wrap your head around why Miracle Man was such a game changer, you've got to see this shift. I mean, look at this. On one side, you've got the classic, bright, smiling hero from the 50s. A simpler time. And on the other, this grim, almost scary figure he turns into. And this is way more than just a costume change, right? It's a total teardown of what a superhero even is, making room for something way darker and way more complicated.
And this right here, this quote from Nietzsche, this is basically the engine for the entire story. It's not just some cool, edgy quote they threw in. Nope. It's the actual blueprint for a story that's about to tear down everything. And I mean everything our hero thinks he knows about himself.
All right, first section. So how does this whole thing kick off? Well, it's not with some huge, flashy fight. It's with something much scarier. The slow, creeping realization that your entire life, your heroic past, it was all a lie. So we meet our main guy, Michael Moran. But here's the thing. We don't meet him as a hero. We meet him as this regular, middle-aged guy who's just haunted by these awful nightmares. Nightmares about a heroic past he can barely even remember. That feeling of flying? For him, it's not this amazing, happy memory. It's a source of trauma, this broken piece of a memory from what he thinks was his last and fatal mission. And boom! Here's the first big gut punch. That entire heroic past, the happy Miracle Man family, the simple good versus evil fights, none of it was real. It was all a lie. Just computer simulations being fed directly into his brain while he was knocked out in a lab. It's brilliant, really. The story takes our own love for that simple golden age of comics and twists it, turning that warm nostalgia into a tool for psychological torture.
So this is what people mean when they talk about the death of God in this story. It's a meta-textual move, which is just a fancy way of saying the comic is talking about comics. It's literally killing off the old-school, innocent idea of a superhero. By revealing his past was a total fake, the story just erases that wholesome myth and slams down this new reality of cold, amoral science and some serious, serious trauma. Okay, so that brings us to the next big question. Where did his powers actually come from? Well, forget magic words or being from another planet. The truth is way colder, way more calculated, and yeah, rooted in some pretty heavy science and philosophy.
So, to really get Miracle Man's origin, you gotta know about this one idea from Nietzsche, the Übermensch, which basically means overman or superman. It's this concept of a person who breaks past all the normal human limits to create their own set of rules and values. And for the scientists in this story, creating an Übermensch wasn't just a fun idea, it was the mission statement.
And here's where it gets really ironic. His powers, these godlike abilities, they come from a secret government operation called Project Zarathustra. Think about that. You've got this stiff, by-the-book government system trying to build and control a being whose whole philosophical purpose is to become so powerful he's above systems like that. It's just perfect. The name of that project isn't just a clever reference. It's literally the roadmap for the whole three-act story. It follows Nietzsche's own path for the Übermensch, step by step. First, Miracle Man has to reject the fake god of his made-up past. Second, he has to confront and, symbolically kill the guy who made him, this scientist named Gargunza. And then finally, the last step, he creates his own values and completely remix the world. And get this, even the classic magic word gets a cold, scientific, and honestly kind of creepy makeover. Kimoda. It's not magic, it's a post-hypnotic trigger word. All it does is swap his human body with this other, superior, lab-grown body that's kept in another dimension. So he isn't transforming, he's being swapped out. Now, if you're a longtime comic fan, that might sound a little like Captain Marvel and Rick Jones, but believe me, the way it's handled here is so much more clinical and, frankly, terrifying.
But here's the thing. This experiment, it didn't just make one Superman. It made two. And the results were drastically, and I mean terrifyingly different. And the story grabs another Nietzsche quote and just runs with it, making it brutally literal. It takes this whole concept of the Overman and physically splits it into two different characters. Each one becomes the living embodiment of one side of this huge world-changing idea.
And this is what that split looks like. On one hand, you have Miracle Man. He's the lightning, the constructive force, the drive to create something new. But then you have his old sidekick, Kid Miracle Man. He's the madness, just pure destructive will to power, a sociopathic rage with the powers of a god. He's nihilism in a cape.
Yeah, Kid Miracle Man, or John Bates, is basically the worst-case scenario, the experiment gone completely off the rails. After the project got shut down, he didn't just disappear. He spent the next 18 years living among us, secretly perfecting his powers while building this massive corporate empire. He is the ultimate nightmare, a sociopath with a god's power, driven by nothing but the desire to watch the world burn. And let me tell you, it leads to one of the most unbelievably brutal sequences in comic book history, period. So, after dealing with his dark reflection, let's say, Miracle Man turns his gaze to the rest of us, to humanity, and he decides he's going to fix it all. He's going to build a utopia. But that begs the question, right? What's the cost of a perfect world that you never asked for? And I mean, on the surface, it looks incredible. They call it Olympus. They literally restructure the entire planet. War? Gone? Money? Obsolete? Injustice? A thing of the past. All of our human problems are just solved. They just impose their perfect will on the entire globe. But here's the catch. To become this god, he has to follow Nietzsche's first rule. You have to surpass man. And he takes that literally. He completely severs ties with his human half. He straight up declares that Michael Moran, the man he used to be, is dead. He becomes this distant, cold god, totally alienated from the very people he's supposed to be ruling over. And that leads to this phrase, a gilded cage. And that really says it all, doesn't it? It perfectly sums up the big critique of this new world. Sure, it's shiny and beautiful and safe, but it's still a cage. It's a prison, because nobody asked for this. Humanity didn't choose this perfect world. It was just dropped on them from above. So yeah, they're safe. They're taken care of. But what did they lose? Their purpose, their freedom to choose. And that, right there, is the heart of it. The story is basically a warning. It argues that our deep-down desire for a hero to just show up and fix everything for us, that can lead straight to a well-meaning dictatorship. Because in solving every single problem, Miracle Man took away the one thing Nietzsche argued gives our lives meaning, the struggle. Which brings us to the final big takeaway from this whole story. It's this lesson about why the journey, the struggle, is actually more important than the destination. This concept is called striving. It's central to the whole thing. Nietzsche uses this image of a tightrope walker, right? Someone risking a deadly fall just to get to the other side. That dangerous, painful process of overcoming, that's what makes us great. The meaning of life isn't found in a state of perfect contentment. It's found in the process, in the striving itself. And so, we're left with this one last really chilling question. Miracle Man gave us a perfect world. No more pain, no more struggle. But in doing so, did he take away the one thing that makes us human? When your only remaining challenge is to just survive perfection, what part of you is actually left?